My ex-wife divorced me after I underwent a significant personality change. During this time, I discovered that I had a brain tumor. Now, with this knowledge, I'm left wondering, how do I move forward? My name is Andrew, and in 2022, I was 32 years old. At that time, I was going through a major upheaval in my life, specifically the end of my marriage. This wasn't just any marriage, it was a journey filled with love, adventure, and an extraordinarily deep connection. When I think about it, our relationship wasn't just between two people, it intertwined with our entire families and became a testament to the love and bond we shared. My ex-wife's brother and I were so close that I had the honor of being his best man. That experience truly highlighted the depth of our intertwined lives. My ex-wife, Sarah, was 33 years old at the time. Our relationship began with great optimism and hope. We were young and in love, ready to take on the world. Together, our relationship blossomed, quickly fueled by late-night conversations and spontaneous adventures. We spent hours exploring the city, getting lost in its winding streets and uncovering hidden treasures. We laughed, argued, fought, and discovered new things about each other every day. It was a time of discovery and growth, a time of intense bonding that laid the foundation for what was to come. One of the defining moments of our early relationship was our trip to Bice. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision, fueled by a sense of adventure and a desire to experience new cultures together. Immersed in the beauty of the Mayan ruins, the ancient stones seemed to whisper secrets of a bygone era. Surrounded by so much history and romance, I decided to propose to Sarah. She, of course, said yes, her eyes sparkling with joy and excitement. At that moment, surrounded by ancient ruins and the promise of a future together, we felt invincible. We returned home with hearts full of love and dreams of the life we would build together. Looking back on those early days, it's hard to believe how much the innocence of our youth has been replaced by the harsh realities of adulthood. The promise of eternity has given way to the harsh truth that our relationship faced trials neither of us could have anticipated at first. These trials were unlike any other challenge a couple might face, but something we believed we could overcome together. However, as time passed, the hurdles became more daunting, testing our resilience in ways we never imagined. My mental health began to deteriorate, casting long shadows over our lives. What started as subtle changes in my behavior soon spiraled into something much more serious. I was constantly on edge, plagued by an unwavering sense of being watched. This paranoia escalated to the point where I became convinced that our home was being bugged and that the police or even government agencies were monitoring me. For me, these weren't fleeting thoughts, they were deeply held beliefs that influenced my actions and led to a deep sense of fear and isolation. One day, out of sheer desperation and concern, my wife convinced me to go to the hospital. That was a pivotal moment in our story. There, I received a diagnosis that seemed to provide some answers, a psychotic break accompanied by bipolar and schizotypal disorder. The diagnosis was a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it gave a name to the chaos that had taken over our lives. But on the other hand, it also brought a whole new set of challenges and questions about the future. Despite these difficulties, my wife stood by me, showing great patience and compassion. However, as time went on, even with treatment, my behavior didn't stabilize. It was as if the essence of who I had always been was slipping away, replaced by someone neither of us recognized. The change wasn't just internal, it manifested in actions that were out of character for me. I began to lie and turn to substance abuse, a stark departure from my previous lifestyle of social drinking and occasional recreational use of weed. It was a downward spiral, one that seemed to pull me further and further away from the person I once was and the life we had built together. I knew I was on thin ice when I started dabbling with drugs behind my wife's back. Somehow, the thrill of it all seemed to override any rational thought. I know it was stupid, and now that I'm facing the consequences, I can't help but feel like the biggest idiot on the planet. The day she found out was like a nightmare unfolding in slow motion. I could see the rage bubbling beneath the surface as her eyes narrowed into icy slits. It was a look I never wanted to see directed at me, yet there it was. She didn't even have to say anything, her silence spoke volumes, echoing with disappointment, betrayal, and hurt. My stomach churned with guilt as I tried to come up with some feeble excuse, but the words caught in my throat like a tightening noose. Then came the explosion. The stream of words she hurled at me was sharp as knives, lashing out with a force that left me reeling. She didn't hold back, she let me have it with both barrels. Every lie, every deception was laid bare for all to see. And all I could do was stand there and take it all like a punching bag. I watched as tears welled up in her eyes, her voice cracking with emotion as she struggled to make sense of it all. It was like watching someone I loved being torn apart from the inside out, and knowing that I was the one responsible for causing that pain made it all the more unbearable. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her I was sorry, but the words stuck in my throat like a lump of coal. What could I possibly say? How could I make things right? How could I undo the damage I had done? The silence that followed was defensive, stretching between us like an unbridgeable chasm. I could feel the weight of her gaze on me, heavy with disappointment and disbelief. In that moment, I knew that things would never be the same again. Days turned into weeks, and yet the rift between us remained. Every attempt at reconciliation seemed to drive us further apart, like ships passing in the night. I could see the pain etched into her every move, and I could hear it in the way her voice quavered every time she spoke to me. I wanted to make things right, to prove to her that I could change, that I could be the man she deserved, but no matter how hard I tried, it never seemed to be enough. The bond that had once bound us together shattered beyond repair, leaving nothing but a hollow emptiness in its wake. And so, I found myself trapped in an endless cycle of guilt and remorse, haunted by the memory of her tears and the sound of her voice breaking as she uttered those words that cut me to the core. How could I have been so blind, so selfish to jeopardize everything we had built together? I wish I could turn back the clock to undo the mistakes of the past and start over, but life doesn't work that way. All I can do now is live with the consequences of my actions. Eventually, the strain became too much. The day my wife told me she wanted a divorce was a day I'll never forget. It was a moment filled with a profound sense of loss, not only for the partnership we had but also for the future we had dreamed of together. In the aftermath, I tried to maintain some connection with her family, especially her brother, who had tried to support both of us. But over time, those connections faded, leaving me more isolated than ever. Friends and family gradually distanced themselves, a reaction to the ongoing turmoil and additional revelations. Rightly or wrongly, I had become a pariah. The year that followed was one of deep depression and struggle as I grappled with the consequences of my actions and the reality of my situation. I checked myself into rehab, determined to reclaim my life and rebuild what I had destroyed. The first few days were the hardest of all. Withdrawal was hell, both physically and mentally. Every fiber of my being was screaming for a fix, but I refused to give in to the temptation. The counselors and therapists at the facility became my lifeline, guiding me through my darkest moments with compassion and understanding. Group therapy sessions forced me to face the demons I had been running from for so long. I shared my story with strangers who quickly became confidants, and I realized that I wasn't alone in my struggles. Together, we leaned on each other for support, finding strength in our shared experiences. As the days turned into weeks, I began to see glimpses of the man I once was, the man Sarah had fallen in love with. I was becoming a clearer and more focused version of myself. I faced each challenge head on, determined to emerge from this ordeal a better version of myself. However, things didn't go as smoothly as I had expected. Months came and went, and I found myself barely scraping by, a stark contrast to the stability I once took for granted. I was at a low point both personally and professionally, one that forced me to come to terms with the changes I needed to make in my life. In the midst of this turmoil, there were glimmers of hope. I discovered an opportunity in real estate, an area that I was able to invest in. Investing in real estate was a turning point, as it felt like finally gaining solid ground after years of uncertainty. The process wasn't easy, and there were moments when I doubted I could do it. But with determination and perseverance, I managed. Owning real estate provided a sense of stability and security that I had long craved. It was a tangible asset, something I could hold onto and build upon. Watching the value of the property increase over time was incredibly satisfying, knowing that I had made a wise investment for my future. But beyond the financial benefits, owning property gave me a sense of pride and accomplishment. It was a symbol of how far I had come from the depths of addiction, proof that I was capable of building a better life for myself. A new companion, a little puppy named Archie, brought a sense of comfort and purpose to my days. Therapy became a beacon of light, offering insights and coping mechanisms that slowly helped me navigate the complexities of my life. As things gradually stabilized, I found myself facing unexpected health issues. Headaches became a daily occurrence, a constant throbbing in the background of my life. Riding the elevator triggered dizzy spells that left me disoriented and unsteady on my feet. Concentrating for too long brought on pounding headaches, as if my brain was protesting the effort. Even driving became a challenge, with ringing in my ears adding to the discomfort. At first, I dismissed these symptoms as mere inconveniences, attributing them to the stress I was under and my erratic eating habits. I convinced myself that I was just feeling weak, a side effect of everything I had been through. But as the days turned into weeks and the symptoms persisted, I began to worry. I was too busy to make an appointment to see a doctor, but the revelation came like a thief in the night, unexpected and life-changing. It was during a routine business trip, one of many I'd taken in recent months as I tried to rebuild the semblance of a normal life. One moment, I was walking through the busy airport, the next, I was on the ground, consciousness slipping away like grains of sand through my fingers. The hospital was a disorienting experience. The sterile white of the room, the beeping of machines monitoring my vitals, and the concerned faces of the medical staff hovering over me were a stark contrast to the life of constant movement I had led. The confusion was palpable, and fear was a silent companion as I tried to piece together what had happened. Initial tests were inconclusive, leading to more questions than answers. My medical history, a tapestry of misdiagnosis and treatment for mental health issues, painted a complex picture that baffled the medical team. But it was the persistence of a keen-eyed doctor who noticed the peculiarities in my symptoms and history that led to the crucial MRI. The scan revealed the unexpected culprit, a brain tumor nestled in a part of my brain where it had orchestrated the chaos of my life from the shadows. The moment of revelation was surreal. Sitting in the dimly lit office, looking at the images of my brain on the screen, I listened as the doctor explained the nature of the tumor. They believed it was benign, but its location had profoundly affected my behavior and mental health. The words brain tumor echoed in my mind, a stark contrast to the previous labels I had been given. My initial reaction was one of shock, quickly followed by a flood of relief. For years, I had been a prisoner in my own body and mind, a battleground of paranoia, erratic behavior, and unexplainable emotions. To have an explanation, a tangible cause for the chaos, was a liberation I hadn't expected. It was as if the pieces of a puzzle had suddenly fallen into place, offering a clarity I had been searching for. For so long, my mind had wandered to my ex-wife, the life we had shared, and the dreams we had for the future. Could the unraveling of our marriage have been avoided if this diagnosis had come sooner? Before, the thought was haunting, a bitter reminder of the fragility of life and the unknown that lies within us. In the immediate aftermath of my diagnosis, a multitude of emotions besieged me. There was an undeniable urge to share this momentous discovery with my ex-wife and her brother, not for the sake of rekindling lost connections, but to offer them an explanation, an insight into the chaos that had destroyed the life we once cherished together. Yet as I considered this impulse, the complexities of such an action became increasingly apparent. The pain, confusion, and upheaval that my behavior had caused were not wounds that I could easily heal. My reappearance, regardless of my intentions, risked reopening scars that had perhaps begun to mend. The bond my ex-wife and I had once shared was unbreakable, forged in the fires of shared dreams, laughter, and love. Her brother, too, was not only a brother-in-law but a friend, a confidant. The dissolution of our marriage was not just a legal separation, it was the end of a shared existence that was deeply intertwined with our families, friendships, and sense of self. While the decision to divorce was devastating for me, I understood that it was a necessary action she felt compelled to take for her well-being. Painfully, I couldn't argue with her decision. Our paths had irrevocably diverged, changed by the storm that had swept through our lives. In the wake of divorce, the silence between us became a chasm, widened by lost trust and hurtful actions. The first attempts to re-establish a connection through calls and emails soon gave way to the realization that such efforts were met with silence, not out of malice, but out of a need for closure and mutual healing. Friends also found themselves caught up in the aftermath and, eventually, stepped back. The complexity of our situation made it difficult for them to navigate the delicate balance of maintaining relationships and offering support. Meanwhile, the shadow of my past, the lingering what-ifs, and the realizations brought on by my diagnosis persisted. Update: after all that transpired, I decided not to contact my ex-wife and her brother. Many advised me to attempt reconnection, suggesting various methods to ensure the message reached them, ranging from indirect social media posts to direct messages sent by mail. Clearly, each proposal was made with good intentions. However, despite the allure of these ideas and my initial inclination to follow through, I chose a different path. Social media, for instance, does not hold the same significance in my life as it does for others. My online footprint is minimal, consisting of an Instagram account for my dog, Archie, and a Facebook profile. The idea of using these platforms to convey such a weighty message felt both impractical and impersonal, given the gravity of the situation. But beyond these logistical concerns lies a deeper consideration: what impact would my reaching out have on my ex-wife? Would it genuinely be for her benefit, or would it be a selfish act on my part, driven by my own desires and regrets? The more I pondered this, the clearer it became that initiating contact might not be in her best interest. She is a strong, resilient person, and I have no doubt that she has built a fulfilling life for herself since we parted ways. Re-entering her life, especially with such important news, could potentially cause unnecessary pain and confusion. This realization compelled me to confront my own motivations. A part of me had harbored hopes for reconciliation, yearning for a fairy tale ending where all was forgiven and we could start anew. However, such fantasies overlook the real and profound reasons for our separation. The issues that led to our divorce were not merely temporary challenges; they were significant, life-altering matters that demanded more than a simple, hopeful reunion. As I reflect on our shared past, I am filled with a deep sense of nostalgia and affection. Our relationship was rich with shared experiences and memories, from competitive board games to shared adventures. Each moment was a testament to the depth of our connection, which I hold dear. I remember those times fondly, from the silly questions we asked each other to the roles we played in each other's lives, including the Dungeons & Dragons campaigns that brought us so much joy. Her presence in my life, her thoughts, and her companionship are still deeply missed. Despite this longing, I understand that it is essential to move forward. My diagnosis and the subsequent revelations have given me a new perspective on my past actions and the future. It is clear that my journey from this point must be one of personal growth and self-discovery. The upcoming surgery is not only a step towards physical recovery but also a metaphorical step towards healing and transformation. Along my journey to recovery, I have had to come to terms with the fact that my ex-wife has moved on and found a new partner. It was not easy to accept at first, seeing her building a life with someone else, a life that no longer included me. However, I have learned to let go of the past and focus on my own healing. I'll admit there were moments when jealousy and resentment threatened to consume me, when I questioned why I wasn't enough and why our marriage had fallen apart. But dwelling on these thoughts only dragged me back into the darkness I had fought so hard to escape. Instead, I chose to focus on the present, on rebuilding myself from the ground up. I dedicated my recovery energy to finding stability and meaning in my life once again. Slowly but surely, with each passing day of sobriety, I regained a sense of self-worth and strength that I thought I had lost forever. I rediscovered hobbies and passions that I had long neglected, finding joy in the simple pleasures of life. And as I began to heal, I realized that my ex-wife's happiness no longer held power over me. I won't lie, it wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt and despair, times when I wondered if I would ever truly be okay. But through it all, I held fast to the belief that I was strong enough to overcome whatever life threw my way. I may not have all the answers, and I may still stumble from time to time, but I am learning to embrace the journey of finding beauty in the brokenness. So, to my ex-wife, if you ever happen to read this, I want you to know that I'm okay. I have found peace within myself, and I hold no ill will towards you or your new partner. I hope you're happy, truly happy, because that's all I've ever wanted for you. I may have said this before, but I didn't want to burden you with my struggles. Now, I want you to know that I love you. I always have and always will. Even though our paths have diverged, I will always cherish the memories we shared. I look forward to the future with a newfound sense of hope and optimism. Whether or not I ever fully overcome this disease, I refuse to let it define me. I choose to live each day to the fullest, to find happiness in the little moments, and to love fiercely, as I always have. In the meantime, life continues at a relentless pace. Work opportunities have presented new challenges and decisions, and my recent property purchase adds another layer of complexity to my situation. Although this period is stressful, it also brings a sense of purpose and progress as I navigate through it. For the first time in years, I find myself optimistic. The prospect of what lies ahead, though uncertain, is invigorating. My focus now is on healing both physically and emotionally, and on the growth I hope to achieve. The path ahead is unclear, but I am ready to face it with a renewed sense of hope and determination. My story, with its twists and turns, may not have the resolution that some might have hoped for, but it is a story that is still being written, with lessons learned and more yet to be discovered. For now, I am content to take things one day at a time, to appreciate the progress I've made, and to look forward to the potential of what is yet to come.